Grey's Anatomy, the medical book, not the TV series, is considered the definitive anatomy textbook. First produced 157 years ago, it's now in its 40th edition. But when it comes to laying out the brain, there's another publication that surpasses it. The Rat Brain Atlas is now one of the most cited neurological publications, and its authors are Australian anatomists. Lateline's Ginny Stein caught up with co-author Professor Charles Watson in Perth to talk about the brains and rats.
Tonight, the City of Perth Concert Band is working on getting its show tunes just right. For Professor Charles Watson, it's a complete change from his day job. A public health physician, he has spent years mapping out the coordinates of the brain of the most important research animal in science, the rat.
But these other structures, you can see the pituitary sitting down underneath, which hangs off the underneath of the hypothalamus.
The Rat Brain Atlas is considered both a work of art and one of the most important medical tools in brain research.
You think of Leonardo da Vinci's drawings, or Ramon Cajal, the famous Nobel Prize winning Spanish neuroscientist from about 100 years ago. I mean, this is sort of probably the same league.
These are quite hard because when you look at a lot of areas of this, there's not a lot of signal, there. Whereas on this one, this adjacent section, there's nice boundaries around some of those structures, so you can find them much more easily.
For Charles Watson and his co-author, George Paxinos, mapping out the brain of the common lab rat has been a long slog.
We started 3.5 years of slogging work to basically get the pictures done, and then it's a cottage industry kind of affair. You get big blow-up photographs of the sections, you put tracing paper over them, and you get the 2B pencil, and you outline as many things as you can.
But when it comes to brains, humans and rats have more in common than most would like to think.
While rats just have little brains, they have the same component parts, same way as a little Hyundai has the same bits as a Ferrari. You can learn about cars by studying Hyundais. You don't have to buy a Ferrari to pull it apart to do it.
At the University of Western Australia, the Rat Brain Atlas has been a textbook staple for students since it was first published in 1982.
Of the brain, in neuroscience, for me, there are two main questions. How does the brain develop, and the different circuits and the cells in the brain? And then once it is developed and mature, how can we make it work better? How can we repair it after injury? And if there's anything that might be a little bit wrong with it, perhaps through abnormal development, can we just tweak the system to make it work a bit better?
The Rat Brain Atlas is the go-to tool for medical research.
It's pretty complex when we first saw it. We didn't know that there was going to be a lot of different areas in the brain. I guess we kind of thought it'd be a bit more simpler, but yeah, that's why the Atlas is really good.
Alex Tang is a PhD student studying brain pathways.
So I used it during undergrad. We were looking at the areas involved in Parkinson's, and throughout my honours I used it to look at the different areas of the cerebellum. And now my PhD I look at the motor cortex.
So really that's the end of it. So that's your last one, 3.36.
In this lab and globally, there is recognition that the Atlas has changed the direction of research.
So the Atlas is a basic support that allows us to look at our tissue and determine where in the brain we are, what we've done, where the changes are happening, all in reference to that Atlas.
So without the Atlas, it's a walk in the dark.
Very much so. It's a complete walk in the dark, and you might end up in the wrong place and be very embarrassed when you come to publishing your results.
Without the Atlas, what would you do?
Without the Atlas, I guess it'd be a lot of guesswork on what we do. So I actually don't know what we would do without the Atlas. It'd probably be a much simpler PhD, I'm guessing.
There is no chance of brains being in short supply in this lab.
So Charles, I wanted to show you our brain collection. We take these out to schools and have activities for primary schools and secondary schools. So we've been collecting them over the years. This is a sheep.
Sheep,
yep.
Yes.
The scale and size of the undertaking to produce this atlas is made apparent when the size of the rat brain is revealed.
Somewhere in here we have a rat brain. You can see the big difference in size.
Yes, they're tiny little brains, really.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing they can do what they do with a brain that size.
It is. It is.
This atlas has now become one of the most cited tools used by specialists, surgeons and researchers.
I think it means that a lot of people are looking at this as a tool in everyday practice, and the more citations you have really is an acknowledgement of the importance of what you've produced. And when you're speaking of 70,000 citations, that's probably more than the academic output of some entire departments, if not universities, I think.
The Rat Brain Atlas, the first in a series of brain atlases, is now considered the most comprehensive and influential ever produced. While the rat brain's place in history is secure, technology in the form of MRI scans is increasing knowledge of the human brain.
So with MRI, I think we're entering a new phase of mapping where the old histological maps like our Rat Brain Atlas will still be important guides, but the new world of brain mapping is going to be MRI brain mapping.